All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Akeem here to talk about the NFC South division, and I'm here to give you the grades for each team for their selections for the 2017 NFL Draft. I'm gonna start things off with the Carolina Panthers. Now, with their first round pick, they actually went with running back Christian McCaffrey coming out of Stanford at pick number 8 overall. Now, I actually disagreed with this selection, but I do understand that they do need more depth at running back. Jonathan Stewart has been very inconsistent, and they need a true feature back. And they're looking to have McCaffrey to be that man. And I do wish the kid the best of luck. I think a lot of players are going to be eyeing on him, keen on stopping him, particularly at the next level in the NFL. In the second round pick, they selected another speedster in Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver / running back coming out of Ohio State. I think this was a decent selection. Now, they do need some depth at wide receiver as well to give another option to pass to for Cam Newton. Now, we all know that Kelvin Benjamin should be coming back this season from injury. They still have Greg Olsen, but he's not getting any younger. And they still have other players who need to step up at wide receiver, but they need more depth to help out Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen, particularly Greg Olsen, and they hope that Curtis Samuel will be that guy. Next up in the second round, they picked up Taylor Moton. This was a good selection coming out of Western Michigan to help out the offensive line. I think he's a safety net for Matt Khalil because I think he's a little bit overpaid with his contract. In the third round, they went with Deshaun Hall coming out of Texas A&M. Now, he has showed great ability over the course of the last 2 seasons as a pass rusher, and they hope that him and Kawan Short will be a great tandem in that defensive line for the Carolina Panthers. In the fifth round, I do like this selection a lot. In the fifth round, from Miami and on defensive back and Cornelius Elder. He actually shows some great ability as far as his cover skills. Now, he's not a true ball hawk, but he does have the ability to use his closing speed to swat footballs away. He actually had 10 plus pass breakups over the last couple of seasons. Next up in the sixth round, they went with Alex Arma, the fullback coming out of West Georgia, to help build more lanes for Christian McCaffrey and company at the running backs. And in their seventh selection, they went with Georgia Tech kicker and Harrison Butker to help out in special teams. Now, overall, for my draft grade for the Panthers, I'm actually going to give them a B+ for their efforts. I'm not hating too much on Christian McCaffrey. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give them an A-. I'm not hating too much on Christian McCaffrey. I really think that teams are going to be trying to take this guy out at the next level, and I'm not going to get into the reasons why. I think too many players, they just think that for a guy like that, they don't want to get embarrassed by him. This is a true talent, and I wish this kid the best of luck. But I do give this team an A-. Next up is the Atlanta Falcons, and their first round selection at 26 overall, they went with Takaris McKinley out of UCLA at defensive end to work opposite of Vic Beasley. I did actually like this selection, and I was kind of surprised that McKinley was still available at pick number 26 to land sharply for the Atlanta Falcons. Next up in their third round pick, that was their next selection. They picked up Duke Riley, the linebacker coming out of LSU. He did have just over 90 tackles this past season, and he does run a 4.55 40. Great speed for your inside linebacker to be. They definitely helped out the defense a lot more. Going in the offensive side in the fourth round, they had Sean Harlow out of Oregon State. He was the offensive tackle, but I think he's going to convert to guard for the Falcons. Next up in the fifth round, they went with DeMonte Kazee coming out of San Diego State. He was actually Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year during his time as an Aztec. Definitely has great cover skills, and he has the ability to be build more depth and be deep and have that the Atlanta Falcons secondary stacked up in the defensive back position. Next up in the fifth round was Brian Hill, the running back coming out of Wyoming. Now, I wasn't really happy with this selection because they have great running backs in Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. He's going to be fighting for the third position for the depth chart at running back for the Falcons, talking about Brian Hill. Sticking in the 5th round, they pick up Eric Sawball, the tight end coming out of Drake. Now, a lot of people don't think he's a great player, but I think he has a pretty good athlete. He did have over 700 yards receiving, and he can line up at wide receiver as well in the slot. I've seen his videotape. He's also could be useful as a blocker. Now, yes, he is coming from a small school from Drake, so I think a lot of people just are a little bit concerned. He did show some productivity during his time, but he didn't play against the top competition. This is another guy I do wish the best of luck. I think he's a pretty good talent. And that was their last selection in the 5th round. Now, overall for the Atlanta Falcons, I'm actually going to give them a B. I do like most of their selections except for the Brian Hill. I think that was a wasted pick. Now, yes, he is a talented running back coming out of Wyoming. I do like Brian Hill, the player, but I don't really think that the Atlanta Falcons needed him. They was looking for a third. They picked him obviously to be hopefully the third down running back, and possibly if they don't want to re-sign Devontae Freeman, they'll use Brian Hill in the future. But I think that it's really Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman who is building up a great tandem. They just came off of a Super Bowl appearance. Next up is the New Orleans Saints. They had a pretty okay draft. Starting with their first pick, I did like this selection a lot coming out of the Ohio State and Marshawn Lattimore. They needed a lot of help in the secondary. And sticking in the first round, they picked up the final selection. They had 2 picks in the first round. They picked up Ramczak, the offensive tackle out of Wisconsin, to help out the offensive line. The Saints no longer have Brandon Cooks, and they need more protection for Drew Brees to throw the football. Next up, I think this was a wasted selection in Marcus Williams, the safety out of Utah. A little bit upset with this one because they still have Von Bell as well as Jarius Byrd in the secondary, and with the selection of Marshawn Lattimore, I don't think they should have went with another player in the secondary. Yes, they needed a lot of help, and they also have Kenny Vaccaro out of my Texas Longhorns. Next up in the 3rd round, they picked up Alvin Kamara, the running back coming out of Tennessee. Now, some people believe that he will be the true running back for the Saints in the future because there's not enough hope for Mark Ingram to play week after week, week in and week out, and they hope that Kamara could be that guy. But they can also be working together as a tandem. Next up in the 3rd round, they picked up Alan Anzalone, the linebacker coming out of Florida. Then this is a pretty good athletic linebacker, but he needs to stay healthy. That was a major concern during his career. Wasn't really healthy. Next up is Trey Hendrickson out of Florida Atlantic University in the 3rd round. This was a great selection. I think this kid can surprise you as a pass rusher. As I mentioned in my scout report on Hendrickson, this kid is a pretty good player. He had great pass rushing skills, was able to get behind the line of scrimmage, not only for sacks, but also for tackles for loss. Now, with their final selection, I did not like this selection from the U and Al Quadin Muhammad. He actually, I believe, was kicked out of the team. He was an ex-Hurricane. His best season was 2015. Did not play in 2016. He had 54 tackles in 2015. Think this was a wasted selection, but I think they picked him up in hopes that he will be a player who will make the 53-man roster. Now, lastly, and certainly not least, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I believe had one of the best draft classes out of all the teams in the NFL this past NFL draft. With their first selection, they went with O.J. Howard out of Alabama. Now, I was shocked that he actually dropped that low. I think I had him going to the New York Jets at number 6. He's not only just a good receiving tight end, but he's an overall great team player as a run blocker as well. They didn't use him too much as a receiver at Alabama, but when he did catch the football, he was mighty effective, particularly in the national championship matchups, but he is a handy man as a blocker. Next up in the 2nd round, they went with Justin Evans out of Texas A&M. Now, they do need to address the secondary. Now, this kid has good cover skills, and he's fast, he's a good ball hog, and he definitely has a pretty good ability to be a good run defender as well. I think this was an excellent selection. Sticking with more excellent selections, in the 3rd round, they went with Chris Godwin out of Penn State. He's coming off of a huge game in the Rose Bowl. He's a reliable receiver, and I think that receiving core is stacked with Deshaun Jackson. They have Mike Evans, and with the addition of Chris Godwin, and they have O.J. Howard. This is the team that everybody needs to look out for this upcoming season, and they're young and they're hungry. Next up in the third round, sticking in the third round, they went with Kendall Beckwith out of LSU. This is a player that I don't really think that I think that he could have been picked a little bit earlier, so this could be a good valuable pick for the Buccaneers. Next up in the fifth round, they picked with Jeremy McNichols coming out of Boise State. This was another player I think he should have been selected earlier as well. He's a well-talented player, and I think he would give more competition for Doug Martin, both coming from Boise State, and I think this will be a great fit in the offense. They have way too many weapons, and another good blocking tight end in O.J. Howard that definitely help out Doug Martin and company, and Jeremy McNichols can steal the job as well. And last but not least, they picked up in the seventh round is Stevie T. I cannot pronounce his last name, Vatu, sorry, I mispronounced your name. I'm going to call you Stevie T. Defensive tackle out of USC. He's a massive nose tackle who has the potential to become a good run defender to help out in the defensive line. I wish him the best of luck to make the 53-man roster. But the previous players that I mentioned, I think they will make the team. Now, overall, I'm going to give this team a solid A for their selections. They did a great job, had some great valuable picks. Now, I think this is a pretty good class for the South, particularly for the Buccaneers. I think this is one young team, one young and hungry team that the NFL needs to look out for. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys will actually be tomorrow, in which I will talk about the NFC West and the NFC East division and give you their draft grades. See you guys then. Thank you for watching today's vlogs. I'm your man, King McCall. Be easy.